and if possible, we'll also go and discuss about word formation, how words are formed in English language. So before we go and talk about that, I want to quickly recall what we discussed in previous classes. Right, we started with understanding the title of the paper, that is structure of modern English, and then we came to know that English has 44 different sounds. Out of that, 20 are vowel sounds and 24 are consonant sounds. We discussed those things in detail, and also try to understand the place of articulation, manner of articulation, right? Voicing. Right? These are three different criteria to describe sound in English. And we also did some practice of pronouncing those sounds. So, and then today, and also actually, we also looked at different organs of speech involved in production of human sound, and especially concerning the English sounds, right? I hope you found those lectures helpful to you in understanding your course. And as we move forward, we will take up this topic today, that is types of verbs, right? You may be aware that English has 8 parts of speech, right? Can you tell me what are those 8 parts of speech? Can anyone please tell me? The English entire vocabulary of English, or entire word stock of English, is categorized into 8 different parts of speech, right? Which you might have time and again read about and heard in your school, right? What are those 8 parts of speech? Can
Noun,
anyone
pronoun,
volunteer?
verb, adjective, adverb,
Verb, adjective, conjunction, interjection,
preposition.
preposition.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Very good, very good. Thank you so much. Yeah, those are the 5, 8 different parts of speech in which entire word stock, right? Or entire vocabulary is categorized into. Now, some words act in certain role, some other act in some other role, and that is why based on the role they play, these words are categorized either as nouns, which is name of place, person, animal, thing, or as pronoun, which is used instead of noun, like I, we, right? They, ours, etc. And then you have prepositions, words which helps to show or point out the position of noun, right? And then you have verbs which acts as verbs who tells about the action, right? Which describes the action, right? And then you have adjective which tells about the quality of noun. Then you have adverbs which is used instead of which are the words um, that helps to modify the verb, right? And then you have conjunction. Those are the words which connect to parts of the sentence, or to phrases, or to words, right? And then you have interjection, words which expresses sudden emotions. So in this way you have 8 different parts of the speech in English. And today what we will be looking at is verbs. Now when we say verbs, there are 2 different primary categories within verbs. One is called primary verbs, right? Then you have auxiliary verbs, right? Or helping verbs also. But if you look at your syllabus, the verbs on the screen, if you look at your screen, that in your syllabus, you see that verbs have been categorized into 3 different what you say categories. One is called auxiliary verb, the other is called primary verb, one more is called modal verbs, right? Modal verbs, as basically auxiliary, but typically in general there are 2 different categories of verbs: main verb and helping verb. Helping verbs are also called auxiliary verbs. Remember this, okay? So what we will be doing today is, we will be, trying to, understand how they are different and what role they play within the sentence, right? Okay, because we are looking at the structure of the modern English. So basically, our focus is on syntax, right? How words are formed, how words together make up phrases, and how phrases, right, make up a clause and then a sentence, right? So that is the structure. Basically, we are talking about the structure of the sentence. Okay. So if we understand structure, right, then we understand a bit more about the language and how language could be used in writing paragraph and writing, maybe at the higher level, a short story, a poetry, drama, and all those things. So if our understanding is better at sentence level, then the higher levels would be easier for us. Do you agree with this?
Sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So yeah, so we'll move on, talk about the difference between helping verb or auxiliary verbs and main verb. Now, for example, if I say you have eaten something in lunch, right? Or you plan to visit a park in the evening. Right? In these two examples, could you identify the verb that I have used? In the first example, for example, you have eaten lunch, right? Or you have taken lunch. So in this example, eaten or taken are like verbs, isn't it?
Yes.
And planning to visit, right? Park, right? So in that example, both planning and visit are both are like verbs. Okay. Now, in any sentence, there could be at least one verb. If it is a simple sentence, there is at least one verb. And if it is a complex sentence, right, there could be more than one verb involved, isn't it? So
Yes.
that is what the primary verb is. In the example that I have given, I have taken lunch, right? Or you have eaten banana. In this example, taken and eaten are like main verbs. They play a primary role, and that is why they are called primary verbs. Now, if you take away taken or eaten, will the sentence make sense?
Mm.
No, right? So, for example, you may be already aware that a typical or a general English sentence has three components. Structurally speaking, syntactically speaking, there are three components in a sentence, three essential components in a sentence: subject, verb, and
Verb object.
object. Very good. So if we take away verb from the structure, will it remain a sentence?
Mm.
No, right? It is not possible for the sentence to give a complete meaning in the absence of verb. That is why in a sentence, the word which acts as a verb and specifically uh, in a primary role, in an important role, so that verb would be called a primary. You can understand it in other way also. Let me explain. Now, for example, in the example that I have given, I have eaten or I have taken lunch, right? Now, the word have, H-A-V-E, have, right? What role it is playing?
Helping verb.
Helping. Helping whom? The main verb.
Helping verb, sir.
The main verb in the end. Taken, right? It is that have is actually going along with taken. So taken is actually a main verb,
Mm.
whereas have is assisting or helping the main verb. That is why it is called helping verb.
Helping verb.
So similarly, have, has, had, or is, am, are, right,
Was.
are examples of, are some examples of helping verb. Okay. So now if you look at structure of a sentence, subject, verb, and object, in a simple way, you have three important, elements in a structure. But if I write, like for example, simple continuous tense, an example of a simple continuous tense, simple present continuous tense. Now let's write down that example. I do not have a digital pen right now to show you on a screen. Usually the way I do it, actually I don't have access to digital pen right now. I'm not able to show it on your screen. But if you have a piece of paper and a pen, please write down that example. I am listening to lecture. I am listening to lecture. Now this is an example of a simple present continuous tense. Okay. Now if we look at the structure of a sentence, we know that subject, verb, and object are the three essential components. Now what is the subject in this example? I.
I.
Okay. Please underline I as subject. And object is lecture.
Lecture.
Underline. Yeah. Right. Now we know that to is actually a preposition, isn't it? To is a preposition. Now what are the remaining thing? Am listening. Am listening. So there are two different types of words are here, but both are actually verbs. In these two verbs, one is actually primary verb, which is listening,
Listening.
and am is actually
Helping.
going with what?
Helping with.
Yeah, it is a helping verb. That is why it is going along with main verb. So the entire am listening can be underlined and treated as verb. Though there are two words here, we'll come to talk about these when we take up phrases. Okay, we are at a word level right now. When we go for phrases, we'll discuss about this. Remember this. Am listening, act as verb. Right? We talked about this in the beginning, that the categorization is based on the role the word plays, right? Verb is verb because there is an action that is being shown by that word. Okay. The word is called adjective because it talks about, or it tells about
Qualities.
of the, or the quality of the noun, right? So in this case, if you look at the sentence, I am listening to lecture, I and lecture are two different components of a standard sentence, that is subject and object. Remaining part, I am listening, right, is actually playing the role of a V, that is verb, isn't it? Now this pair has one as main player, the other as supporting player. Like in a movie, you have a main actor who is called hero or heroine, and there are supporting actors. So similarly, in this particular example, you have listening as main verb and am as
Helping.
helping verb. Okay, so there are multiple words which could come as helping verb in English. But if you look at primary verbs, there is no limit. There are so many lakhs and thousands and hundreds of words which could be primary verb, which could come as a primary verb in a sentence. But when it comes to helping verbs, the list is limited. There are limited number of helping verbs in English. Like for example, we know that is, am, are, right? Isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Was has, have, had, will, shall, would, may, might, could, can. These all play the role of helping verb. That is why we have the limited list of, or something that we can easily remember. Yeah, these are the only helping verbs in English. Okay. In case of conjunctions, that there are two types of conjunction: coordinating conjunction and
Subordinate.
subordinating. When it comes to coordinating conjunction, you can easily remember fanboys, right? FANBOYS. 7 primary or important coordinating conjunction. But when it comes to subordinating conjunction, they are lot many. So it's easy to remember coordinating conjunction. Similarly, when it comes to verbs, it is easy for us to remember what? Helping verbs, because they are limited in number. Now, if I take example of is, am, are, was, right? What does they signify in a sentence? What does they tell about in the sentence? You use is, am, are, right, in present tense. Was, were in past
Past
tense,
tense.
right? Am, right, with ing form of the verb, is with
Continuous
ing
tense.
form of the verb, are with ing form of the verb, will go in present.
Continuous tense.
Was plus ing form of the verb, were plus ing form of the verb goes with
Past
past
continuous tense.
continuous. Similarly, had is used in past perfect,
Past.
have and has is used in present perfect, and have and has plus been, right, is used in perfect continuous, right, present perfect continuous, and had plus been is used in perfect continuous tense, past perfect continuous tense, right? So we can make a guess here easily that all these helping verbs are there to assist or to signify tense, right? What tense it is. So in a structure, the role of all helping verbs are to tell something about the tense, right? Are you getting my point? Am I connected with you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So uh, these helping verbs play the role of marker, right, of tense in a sentence. But main verb may or may not tell about the verb. Is it correct? Or main verb also tells about to know which tense it is. Whether main verb also tells about to know tense in a given sentence.
Yes, sir.
Yes, very good. You're absolutely right. Because in English, the tense or time is identified based on the verb, whether it's primary verb or helping verb. So both primary verb and helping verb, they not only tell about action but also about
Tense.
time, right? Tenses are nothing but about time, right? Whether it's
Yes, sir.
past, present, or future. So, for example, you have see as one verb. So its past form is saw. Its past participle form is seen.
Okay.
So verb, primary verb, right, not only tells about action but also about when it happened, right? Whether it happened in the past, or whether it happens now in present,
Present.
or it will happen in future, right?
Yes, sir.
So this is something about what we say helping verbs. I hope you understood these things, and remaining you can easily understand just by reading the course material that you have. So what we'll do is we'll move on to another topic. Shall I move on to another topic?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so next topic is about actually word formation. Now you may be knowing that there are multiple ways in which words could be formed. Before I discuss these things in detail, I would like to just ascertain whether you are thorough with the previous topic that we discussed. I hope you don't have any doubts, or you may not need any further clarification when it comes to verbs and their role in a structure of a sentence. Are you thorough with that? Okay, I assume that you are thorough with that, and we'll discuss this topic right now. Now, if you look at verbs in English could be uh, formed in multiple ways. Right? There are multiple methods, right, in which new words are formed in English language. So, for example, one very what do we say important method through which new words are formed is by actually borrowing from other languages. Right? Do you remember any word in English which is there in your own mother tongue? Do you recall any word which you have seen in English, but it is actually from some other language? You won't be able to recall right now. Now let me give you an example. You say sofa, right? SOFA, sofa,
Yes.
right? That particular word is not an English word basically. That word has been borrowed from Arabic. There could be so many other such words which are not basically originated in English language or in English culture, but it came from other cultures and other languages. And English happens to borrow a lot many words from French language. There is a great deal of influence of French language on English. So does Greek language influence on actually English. You see a lot of medical terminologies, right, and also philosophical terminologies that have come into English from Greek language. Got it?
Yes.
Yeah. So that is one method in which new words are formed in English language. That is called borrowing, which means words which were there in other languages, words which are there in other cultures and other languages that are taken into or borrowed and used in English. Okay? So that is one method. The other method is actually method of affixation, okay, where words are formed by adding prefix or suffix to it. Now you have a word education, right? Please write down education on a piece of paper if you have with you. Then I will tell you two more words formed using this particular word. Now you already have one word education existing in English, but using that word there is possibility of forming new few more words, right? And education remain as the main word or the root word. Now if I add al at the end of education, what will it become? Can you pronounce? Education?
Educational.
Educational, right? Very good. Now if you add one more if you add one more part, that is education preceded by un,
Uneducated. Uneducated.
and then towards the end ed,
Uneducated.
right? Education, educate, educational, uneducated, educated, right? Now you have one particular root, and with that we are able to form at least 4 different words, isn't it? From education it became educate, right? From education it become educational, from educate it become educated, from educated you added one more thing, it become uneducated. You see this addition of some part at the end and some part at the beginning to form a new word, right? This is what we call affixes. The parts that we are adding at the end or at the, it is called prefix.
Prefix.
If the part is added at the end of the word, then it is called suffix. Okay, it is this simple. So this is another method of forming the words in English. First one is borrowing, where you are borrowing new words from other cultures or other languages, right? And second method is actually you have one particular word called bandobast, right? Bandobast is basically a Urdu word or Urdu and Hindi word used commonly in Urdu and Hindi word, right? That word is used as it is in English. So this is what nothing but borrowing one particular word which exists in Urdu and in Hindi and using it in English. So that is the first method of word formation in English, that is called borrowing. So the another method is forming the word using affixes, either adding a prefix or a suffix to make up a new word. Print, printer, right? You're adding a suffix er, and then you have a new word called printer. Print is actually a verb, but printer is actually a noun, right? So in doing so, the nature of the word also changes. For example, print is actually is a verb, right? But if you are adding er, it becomes
No.
printer, right? Print could also be a noun. Don't get confused. In English, this problem is there. Words can act as a noun as well as verb. So there are so many words which can act as both noun and word based on where and how it is used in a sentence, right? Some are pure verbs which act only as verbs, some acts purely as noun, but a lot many words can act as both verb and noun based on where it is placed. If I write take a print, so that print would be a what? Noun there. Take acts as a verb, right?
Yes, sir.
So yeah, so drive, driver. What we see that drive
Is a verb
is
and
actually verb, but when you are adding a suffix er, it is changing the word category and becoming a
noun.
what? Noun.
Noun.
So in some cases the word category changes because of the addition of prefix or suffix. In some cases, the word category may not change, would remain the same
Mm.
even after adding prefix or suffix. For example, educate, I'm adding d as suffix, educated. Now educate is a verb, educated is also a verb. So within what we say affixes, the method of forming new word through affixes, in some cases the new word comes in a new word category. That kind of words are called derivational, right? Where the word category isn't changing even after addition of any affix, whether it's a prefix or suffix, then such kind is called inflectional. That is the main difference between these two. Okay.
Mm.
I hope you are now you understood the difference between inflectional and derivational. Okay.
Yeah.
You derived a new category of word from the existing word, right? And that new word comes in a completely new word category than the parent one or the original one. Then such kind of word is called derivational. That process of forming a new word is called derivational. Whereas if the word is being added a prefix or a suffix, but the word category doesn't change, then such kind of process is called such a process is called inflectional. Now what we'll do is we'll move on to one more method of word formation, right? Now have you heard of clipping? Am I with you? Hello, am I
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
connected with you? Okay. Now there is one more method of word formation which is called clipping. It is actually a process where new words is formed by cutting down the existing word. Clip, right? You may understand the word clip itself, right? You cut it. Now, for example, you have a word called telephone, right? Telephone is one word, but through the method of clipping, you have clipped or chopped off or removed tele from the telephone, and you have a new word that is called phone, right? Or you have advertisement as one word, and everything except ad is retained, and that new word is called ad, right? You have examination as a complete word, and because exam and remaining part emanation is removed, and what you have is exam as a new word. So this is one more method of word formation. Okay, and I hope it's very easy and doesn't require much uh, explanation, right? Clipping is actually self-explanatory, where you are removing a part of a word and retaining other part, and that word acts as a new word. So that method is called clipping. Now, one more method is actually called blending. What is blending? Have you heard of brunch? Have you heard of brunch?
Yes, sir. Breakfast plus
Yeah.
lunch.
Or smog, SMOG, smog. Or social media terminology called emoticon. Yes, you might have heard about any of these things. So brunch is basically is a blend, right, or a combination, a new word form with the combination of two words, breakfast and lunch. Now BR of breakfast, right, UNCH of lunch, when combined became brunch. So this method of forming a new word is called blending. Okay. So the example of emoticon is emotion plus icon, when blended, when combined, when mixed, became emoticon, right? You have sitcoms also, where situation plus comedy became sitcom. So this is one more method of word formation, that is called blending. Is it making sense?
Yes, sir.
Are you able to? Yeah. So how many methods of word formation we have discussed so far?
4 type.
Huh? How many? Borrowing is one. Then come on, could you please respond? Clipping. Are you with me, or have I lost the connection? Inflection, derivation, right?
Yes.
Blending and please talk about now. There is one more method. I'll talk about that last method. There are actually a lot more methods, but in today's class, I'll try to take up one more, and then we'll conclude the class, right? Apart from affixes, right? Then blending, clipping, borrowing, right? We'll also talk about one important method, that is called abbreviations. Abbreviation is also actually a way of forming a new word. Now you have ATM, right?
Hmm.
ATM is basically a new word which is formed from automatic teller machine.
Teller machine.
Instead of using three words, you have formed a new word. ATM itself is a new word, isn't it?
Hmm.
Yeah, it is a new word formed using first letter of the three words, automatic teller machine,
Machine.
right? Now you have UNESCO, right? UNESCO, UNICEF, right?
Yes, sir.
Niti Ayog. So these are the words which are formed in the way we form acronyms. Acronyms are also abbreviations, and this kind of, there are two ways in which abbreviations are formed. One, by using first letter of each word, and then that kind of word is called acronym. Acronym is also abbreviation, but the way we are forming it, that is using first letter of each word and forming a new word, and that is called acronym. But the other method is making meaningful part of the words, each word, and combining it to form one. May it be UNICEF, UNESCO, Niti, right? Which means it is giving a meaning. In case of an acronym, it doesn't give a meaning, which means it is not similar to any other word. Acronyms are basically not similar to any word, and it may not have a meaningful arrangement. It doesn't read like a meaningful word. Okay. Whereas abbreviation, in abbreviation, the other method of forming a word, you have a meaningful, what do we say, new word, UNICEF, right? You are not saying ATM. You are not spelling out each letter in that. Are you? You are pronouncing it as a word. So that is the difference between the two, acronym and abbreviation. Both are abbreviations basically, but the second method is actually a acronym. So I think we have discussed multiple ways of word formation apart from discussing main verb and helping verb in this class. I hope you found it useful for you in understanding the material that is supplied by the Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University to help you with preparation for your examination. And hopefully, if you get a chance in the next class, we'll talk about further about other topics in your syllabus. And if possible, we'll also look at some of the important questions uh, from your examination point of view in last but one class. Okay, so hope to see you and meet you in the next class, and thank you for your cooperation and joining this online class. So I am ending this class for today. Thank you so much.